Helton offensive guard Damian Mama will join us later, as will New York Giants outside linebacker and, of course, USC great Devon Kennard. We'll also talk some women's soccer with the head coach Kadani McAlpine and defender Savannah Levin. I'm Jordan Moore. John Jackson, you know us. You know the coach as well. Let's get to him right away. Get ready for your next big game. Let Ralph's help make game time a little easier. Place your order today for ready-made party platters at your neighborhood Ralph's Deli at ralphs.com/order online. Coach, looks like you got away today from dressing up, but I heard it looked like there was something going on last night at the John McKay Center.
Yeah, as coaches, you never get to go trick-or-treating with your children, so we had trick-or-treating at our offices. We had all our little ones dressed up, and the mamas decided we would dress up also, so I got to dress like a penguin last night and give out candy to the kids.
Well, Coach, the one thing about my outfit is that, I'm dressed in high school gear. I was a three-sport.
He's going to be tempted to recruit you dressed like this.
And I was a three. That's why it's my recruiting pitch.
Oh,
right
sorry,
now.
I apologize.
Right?
I thought he was supposed to pitch you.
Yeah, no. It's old school. You got to pitch myself.
Got it.
But I was a three-sport player, right? So the football, the baseball, that's obvious. But Coach.
Oh, it's got the rip-offs.
The tearaway pants.
I love
the tearaway pants makes it official that I also played basketball as well.
We'll get Andy Enfield on here. I'm sure he'll really be swayed
just in case you need me in another sport.
Outfit. Well, we'll talk a little football just for fun. It's Halloween and all.
Losing everything.
We did have a game last week, Coach. That was a good one. 4 straight now that the team has run off and literally ran this one off. That was the best rushing performance at this school in 11 years. What got cooking in the run game that was working so well?
Well, really for the 4th straight game in a row, I thought the offensive line really controlled the line of scrimmage and the point of attack. No penetration in the backfield. Really got our outside zone schemes going against Cal's defensive line. And then you got 2 runners that got a chip on their shoulder the last 2 weeks and have been challenged and really have done a tremendous job in replacing a really good tailback in Justin Davis. I'm very, very proud of both Rojo and Sed for the job they've done.
Coach, the way this team has matured and grown, I mean, everybody's calling me now and saying, hey, this is a completely different team. We all know it's the same personnel. What's been the biggest thing that you think that really get this team over the edge to now everybody was like, hey, this is a national contender type of team. You could play with anybody.
Yeah, well, I think one thing is just us coming together as a team. Anytime that you have 3 new coordinators, a bunch of new position coaches, and you're learning your football team as well as your personnel, we went through some growing pains, and we played some good football teams. And, after Utah, I really stepped away from that game saying, gosh, we got something here. We got something special. And the credit to the kids. They kept believing, they kept listening, they kept learning, and kept getting better. And we had a great October, and now the challenge is we have to have a great November. We've put ourselves in position to have some really meaningful, memorable ball games coming up in November. And we've got to put, this last month behind us and now focus on Oregon.
And you go into November with a very confident Ronald Jones II. And I'm not sure that was true all season. I don't know if people see confidence in running backs, but I'm sure you see it. What clicked for Ronald that he's doing maybe just slightly differently now that allowed him to have one of the great rushing days in USC history?
Yeah, I think he was really challenged over the last 2 weeks, and he knew that he had to be the guy. He had to put the team on his back, and you saw it a little bit of at Arizona. It was just like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And after that first run, that first play of the game, I was like, oh gosh, okay, here we go. He looks like the wild horse again, and he had one of those special days. Him and said, 48 carries for 398, you'll take any day of the week. And, it really took a lot of pressure off a young quarterback who only had to throw the ball 25 times in the game.
I know you talked about the running backs and how well they played, but Justin Davis, is there any updates on him in terms of where he's at?
Yeah, he's getting closer. He was on the Ultra G, which is a weight-bearing treadmill, and he had about 90% of his body weight on that today, running at about 11 miles per hour. Has not done any change of direction yet. We'll see where that is as we go through the week. It's a possibility this week. I think more realistic. You're looking at Washington, but we'll see as we go through the week.
We asked you this question going into Cal, and then you just sort of talked about it. It sort of played out, the way that many thought it would, with you running the ball so well. How difficult was it to try and maintain balance and to just keep from just dialing up run after run when it's working so well?
I got to really credit T, and I told him the other day, I said, by far the most proud I am of them of the entire season, because you look up and you have some very skilled athletes outside. They were playing some one high coverage. They had to change up a little bit and play some man, and we took some shots and threw some touchdowns. But for him to really stick with what was working with the run game and really 48 runs to only 25 passes, I was really proud because, I mean, quarterback by trade, wide receiver coach, but at the end of the day, he did what was best for the team, and he called a very, very patient, mature game.
Hey, Coach, you've been around a lot of coaches and doing this a lot of years. And I don't mean this as any slight, but as a coach, is there also, maturity process or growing process where even coaches, I mean, we talk about players getting better from week one to where they are now. Yeah. Does that same thing hold true for coaches? And is that what we're seeing in teams?
Yeah, no question. I think we've improved as an entire staff. I think you look at each position coach, each coordinator, learning their personnel, and I think we've gotten better in all three phases from game one to game 8. And now our challenge is to continue that and really, as you go through these not only rivalry game but very, very important games down the stretch, we have to do some things to really clean up. I'll be honest with you, we're not a finished product. We're playing good football, but there were still mistakes made in that game with penalties and some turnovers that we've got to clean up against an Oregon, a Washington, a UCLA, and a Notre Dame. You're not going to be able to do some of the things we did in that game and win a close game.
Yeah, those turnovers, I'm almost surprised more don't happen with the zone read offenses and the RPOs. The one in particular that I thought was interesting was the one where it basically looked like Sam pulls it to throw, but Ronald sort of ran through his hand. What happens on a play like that? How often do you drill all those mesh point things to avoid things like that?
Hey, you do it every day, and then you hope that you carry it over into the game. You get two young players in the game, and it really was a technique flaw quarterback-wise because the RPO was away from the back, and one of two things have to happen. You either have to give a token fake to the back to establish where he is, or you have to step slide, almost like you're turning a double play at shortstop. And that step slide away from the back gains you enough space to be able to extend your arm and throw. Young quarterback saw an opportunity to get it out there, really just caught and pulled the trigger without step sliding, and now he rears his arm back and the back hits it. So technique flaw that has to be fixed.
A little baseball metaphor for you there, Jay. One of your three sports.
I love it. When you're a three-sport athlete, I can relate.
A crow hop. When we come back, we're going to talk some defense. Really, that was probably the big story from the game. One of the nation's best offenses held to a season low in points. We'll talk about that. And, of course, another offensive test for that defense as Oregon comes into town this weekend. The Ducks in the Coliseum for the first time in a long time, 4 o'clock on Saturday. More Trojans Live next on Halloween. Back on Trojans Live. Jordan Moore, John Jackson, Dr. Strange on the DJ mix tonight. And, of course, the head coach, Clay Helton, taking you through some Halloween football here as Trojans coming off a big win over Cal, and then Oregon comes up this Saturday night, homecoming at the Coliseum. 4 o'clock, they finally announced that kickoff. I think everyone was very happy with the 4 o'clock kick. Plenty of time for the people to come back and get their tailgate in, and also, not so late that everyone can make it home in a decent hour. But let's talk about the defensive challenge. Cal, and then we'll get to Oregon, but it tests your secondary. Cal does in particular, and then it got even harder because Jonathan Lockett goes down. We talked about Biggie Marshall going out for at least one part of a series. All of a sudden, you got a Jenny Harris and Jack Jones in there. They went after him twice, and they stopped him both times. I mean, those are the kind of stories I imagine a coach loves of guys that were ready when their number was called.
Yeah, you make the most of your opportunity and the preparation that you put in, not only the week but the year to get your opportunity. And Jane and Jack both came up with good plays when needed. And that's been a mark of this defense. As we look at it, I mean, I was so proud of them to hold Cal to the fewest points that they had all year with an offense that was really, really scary coming in. To be honest with you, was nervous about it. Being a quarterback coach by trade and seeing Davis Webb and what he can do with the skilled players that he had around him, to go out there and to bend a little bit but never break, and then most importantly, we had said coming in, we got to be able to get off the field. Third downs are going to be critical, and to be that secondary to hold them to 3 of 12 on third down, I thought was the key to the game.
You guys were able to throw off their timing. I mean, I watched a lot of film of Cal before the game, and everything came out quick and on time, and it seemed like there was rhythm. What was the biggest key in terms of disrupting the rhythm last week?
Yeah, when we went back and watched the film, you look at the stat sheet, and I was like, oh, man, no sacks. And then I went back and watched the film, and the hurries and the hits and getting the quarterback off his spot changes the rhythm because they were a huge rhythm passing team. Hit your back foot, balls out. And all of a sudden, he was having to move in the pocket. Well, those mess up timing routes a bunch of times. And all of a sudden, you're having to scramble and you're having to do, well, those are the type of things that you got to continue. You want the sacks, you want to be able to get that, but just as importantly, getting the quarterback off his spot. I thought the D-line did a good job of that.
And as you look at this week's opponent, on paper, similar in a lot of ways with Oregon, right there with Cal, among the best offenses in the league. They play a lot of shootouts, so they give up a lot of yards and a lot of points. How are they different when you dig a little deeper into the game plans?
Well, offensively, they're scary also. You're talking about a team that scores 40-plus points a game. You're talking about a team that just found their young quarterback maybe for the future, that all the Pac-12 went, oh, gosh, dang it. The last two games they've put up over 100 points with them through 6 touchdowns at Cal. By far, maybe the best combination of backs that we'll see all year. Definitely the fastest in Brooks, and then you look at Royce Freeman, who's been phenomenal, and a host of wideouts. Charles Nelson comes back from defense over to offense, who's created a huge spark for him. And Carrington, right here from Southern California, up there doing a nice job. So offensively, they're scary. I thought they played well defensively. They made some schematical changes versus Arizona State that I thought helped them. We'll see what they do versus us, but they did some nice things versus Arizona State to kind of throw them off. So we'll have to see what they do defensively.
Yeah, and this is the same thing about Oregon in terms of their offense and the tempo. You have to be concerned with and worry about. I mean, it's not like you haven't seen these type of teams before, but even when you talk about Oregon, is it a different tempo when it's with them? I mean, it just seems like they invented it, and they're just a little bit faster than most of the teams we face.
Yeah, they've been doing it a long time, and anything that you've been doing a long time, you kind of figure out the kinks and what advantages that you have. And, they've been as good as anybody in the country running no-huddle offense. And Mark does a great job. Coach Helfrich does a great job with the offense, and he's been doing it for years. And he knows the pieces of the puzzle where they fit. He's doing a great job right now of using 2 tight ends and being able to show you not only 12 personnel looks, but then they spread those 2 athletic tight ends out and give you a 4 wide look, and you're like, okay, what type of offense are you getting? They can make it look like 4 wides, 3 wides, or 2 tights with all the same people on and go really fast.
For a while, at least, it was a pretty seamless transition from Chip Kelly to Mark Helfrich. He gets him in the national championship game. He gets him a Heisman with Marcus Mariota. Have they changed? Are they similar to those teams that you used to game plan against back in the day with Chip Kelly as the head coach?
Yeah, and I wouldn't get fooled by their record right now, because when you truly go back and watch the tape and look at the games, they go and play a Nebraska.
Turned out to be a pretty good team.
Yeah, they go and play Nebraska hand in hand. Ends up being a close game. They play Colorado, ends up being last possession game. They go and play Cal in overtime. So they have lost some close games. Now everybody thinks of the Washington game, and Washington got a hold of them, but they've played some quality teams really, really well.
Yeah.
And if you don't bring your A game, especially in this league versus this team, a team that beat us last year, you're going to get your butt beat. So we've got a challenge ahead of us, and that's why our total focus has to be on this team this week.
With their defense, like you said, they've struggled. I guess that's the best way to put it, early. What is it that turned around for them, or at least helped them in the last game against Arizona State, sort of turn things around?
I think anytime that you adjust your scheme, you remember they were a 3-4 front, and the personnel-wise, they were matched up 3-4, and now they're a total 4-down team. Making those changes, I think one is a little bit different for kids, and do you have the right personnel? Now you have to recruit there, and then I'll be honest, they've had a little bit of unfortunate of getting some injuries, on that defensive side, and trying to one, I think, match personnel where where they want to put each kid, and then two, just some unfortunate with some injuries.
You know, as we head towards November and these huge games, including 2 big home games, you know, at the Coliseum starting this weekend, and it's homecoming. It was a tough start to the season for the fans. You know, 1-3 start, and they've been through a lot in the last few years. Do you feel the momentum building as a program as a whole? Do you feel, you're out there with the people, do you feel like they're starting to get energized, and how important are they, you know, to what you're ultimately trying to accomplish here?
No question. The Trojan family is it, and that's who we play for, and that's who we represent. We represent a brand that's as good as anything in college football, and we were disappointed in ourselves in the first 4 games, coming out 1-3. But one of the things I'm proud of is these kids know adversity. They've been in adversity, some of the old kids, and they knew how to turn it around. And now we've put ourselves in a position, 4 games left to compete for a conference championship. We got some luck last week with Washington beating Utah. Now we're a game back from Colorado, and we just got to do our job 1 week at a time.
And I mean, as fans and, of course, broadcasters, we're always watching the standings and how everybody does every week, mathematically figuring out who needs to beat who. How much do you talk about it with the team, if at all?
They're pretty smart kids. I mean, they
yeah,
know.
I know. They know about
yeah,
it.
They know. But what you try to get them to focus on, especially these last 4 weeks, is one, do your job. Just like we took 1 week at a time in October, you treated it like playoff football. Nothing changes there. That we're playing a really good Oregon team that's had our number before in the past. We've got to go play our best game at the Coliseum where we've had some good fortune. And then, we're getting into some rivalry and some emotional games that, I watched. It was neat to be able to take a Saturday and watch a ton of football and watch 18 to 21-year-olds make emotional decisions that could have cost their team.
That's right.
So we talked about that today.
Okay.
I watched the Washington-Utah game and saw Washington get a personal foul right on the 3-yard line, kind of talking to the quarterback, and it gave Utah a first down, and they punched it in the end zone. And I literally showed that today, that those type of decisions can end up costing points, and you're going to be in those emotional, whether it's national TV games, whether it's rivalry games, you're going to be in those situations, and the decisions that you make can ultimately cost your team if they're not good ones.
Well, no more Saturdays for you to watch football, Coach. No more Saturdays off the rest of the way. We've done that part. Just 4 big games to close out at least the regular season, and we'll see what else to play after that. But it all starts on Saturday, 4 o'clock, Oregon homecoming. Doesn't get any better than that. There's still tickets available, usctrojans.com/tickets. Get in, pack the house, and a great chance to beat the Ducks, something this program has struggled with. So a good opportunity for USC to exact some revenge on Oregon. We got a guy next who beat Oregon back in the day. I'm sure one of your favorites, Coach Devon Kennard, will join us next on Trojans Live.